All right, I wanted to shoot a quick video about one of my favorite bikes. This is my Surly disc trucker. It's basically the disc version of the long haul trucker. And I've had a lot of bikes, and I think this is like one of my favorite bikes that I've ever owned. This is a 56 centimeter frame, and it's a 4130 double butted chromoly frame tubing. It's a very simple design, like you know, it just looks like a pretty standard touring bike. So very simple design, but I can go through a couple of things that kind of make this really stand out, and I guess what's some few things that are just sort of unique to this specific build. So obviously the key in this entire equation is the frame set. What's great about this frame set is that, well, it's fairly rigid and it's also very forgiving. So, you know, steel frames have a certain characteristic that it's hard to replicate with something else. But this has been a really nice frame. It's really solid. I'm about 200 pounds, and sometimes when I go over curbs or something on a regular bike, I feel like I'm going to snap it. But this feels really solid. It does not give you any sort of like trepidation around, you know, jumping off a curb or trying to climb a log or something like that. It's very comfortable. It's very solid. Lots of mounts on this frame, right? So there's dropout mounts. There's seat stay mounts. There's a bunch of bottle cage mounts. So there's 2 on the frame, and then there's another couple underneath. Fork mounts, all this stuff, right? The frame is also fairly good at hauling stuff. So you can see that the back tire, there's a little bit of a gap here. I mean, it's great for sticking a fender in there, but also it sort of gives the bike a little bit more of a longer stance that just makes it a little bit more stable when you're climbing, and also when you're carrying loads. So I guess beyond the frame, I've got a Dior wheel set, Shimano Dior wheel set that has been honestly just a fantastic wheel set. I bought this wheel set for $50 on Facebook Marketplace, and I've probably got like, I don't know, 15 or 20,000 kilometers on the wheel set itself. You can see it's fairly dirty because I do ride it quite a bit. I commute with this bike. I've also raced on this bike. The drivetrain is sort of funny. Well, we'll start with shifters, I guess. These are some older, can't even see the stickers on there anymore, but those are some older Shimano 105 5700 STI shifters. So it's basically like a 2x10 shifter. And the 105s are really nice. I have that set to a Shimano 10-speed XT rear cassette with a 34 tooth and 11 tooth sprocket. So there's a fairly high range. It's a mountain bike cassette because I wanted that 34 tooth gear to be able to do some climbing. This is a Dior 9-speed mountain bike derailleur, and this works. So 9-speed derailleur works with 10-speed cassette, works with 10-speed shifters. So it took a little bit of Googling to get that all happening, but it all works, and it works really well. It's great. I have a 105 crank, and if you're unexperienced or unfamiliar with these cranks, they're really nice, a lot lighter than, for instance, like a Claris square taper crank, a lot lighter. So if you can save up some bucks and get one of these. I bought this used as well off of Facebook Marketplace for, I think it was $90. And when I got it, it was in better shape than what it is now. It's been used. And I have a 105 front shifter, although I really don't use it that much. The new Surly thing, which is all the rage these days, is these handlebars. These are the Surly truck stop handlebars, and so you can see that they have some rise in either side of them, and I really like them. They're very comfortable, they're very forgiving. They were around $100. I think I just got them off of Jensen USA, but worth every penny. That's a very nice handlebar. And then for brakes, I guess another thing why this frame is so great is that you can squish some pretty big brakes on this. So these are 203 millimeter rotors, and the calipers themselves are BB7 road calipers. I've used BB7 brakes on a number of bikes. Honestly, they are my favorite brake. You know, if you're gonna get any kind of mechanical brake, or if you're choosing between mechanical and hydraulic brakes, like honestly, for my money, I think the mechanical BB7 is, you know, at par, if not better than a lot of hydraulic brakes. They're so reliable, so strong, and so easy to set because you can just turn the dials to set the brake pads on either side. So with 203 millimeter rotors, this thing stops. Like, it can be loaded, I can be going downhill, I could have all my panniers on and everything, and I slam on the brakes and I'm gonna stop. There's no question. And that's what I want. Like, I don't wanna slow down. No, I wanna stop. If a car's coming at me, I wanna be able to just slam on my brakes and stop. So they're fantastic for that. And then I guess the final part of the equation is these tires. These are Surly Nard 700 by 41 tires. Maybe I can move that up a little bit. Yeah, so these are Surly Nard 700 by 41. A lot of squish. I mean, it's a chunky tire, and it's got quite a bit of grip on it, obviously. I've rode these things through some pretty deep mud, and they had a ton of traction. They have a little bit of rolling friction, and I've got them pumped up to about 55 or 60 PSI right now, and that's how I commute. But I would say they're slower than, you know, some street tires for sure. In terms of the overall bike, I think people assume these are going to be slow bikes. They're really not that slow. I mean, it's a steel frame bike, so it's going to be maybe a pound or two heavier than, you know, a carbon or an aluminum bike. You can compensate a lot of that with some lighter parts. So I've got the 105 crank is a lighter crank. You could put some carbon, you know, parts on there if you wanted to, seat posts and handlebars if you really wanted to save some weight. But I honestly, I'm not hindered by the weight at all. And like I say, like, what I trade, you know, I add weight, but I also add strength, right? And there's a fairly good, like, I'm confident in this bike. I'm confident in I can do anything with it. I can ride it anywhere. I can take it on any kind of excursion, and it's going to be good. It's going to stay together for me. I did not have that confidence in some of my other bikes. I've got a carbon specialized road bike, and I've got I've had some aluminum, Brody and Breezer bikes and stuff, and yeah, this is I'm most comfortable on this bike for sure. It's not slow, and I wouldn't call it fast either, but it's a good bike. And then in terms of, like, I don't know, playfulness, it's still a very playful bike. I think typically when we see these bikes, you know, people have ridden them like a million miles and they've got panniers and every kind of bag on them that you can possibly think of. So they don't sort of advertise themselves as being like kind of fun bikes to own, but they are fun bikes. Like it's playful. I can wheelie on this. I can, I've jumped it. So it's kind of a do everything, Swiss Army knife of bikes, really. If you're thinking about getting one of these, do it. Like, if you're in that boat of like, should I or should I not? Yes, you should. You should definitely get one of these. It feels different than other steel bikes. It's just chunkier and better built, and it's worth it. I know they are a little bit of a premium price. Surly Bikes is almost on the fence of being like a boutique brand. But they are popular enough that you can find a used one, and that's what I did here. This one is a used frame that I picked up, it was in better shape than it is now. I've definitely used it. But I bought this frame for around $400. I forget if it was $425 or something like that, but I think it was $400. And a lot of the parts I had already, like the shifters, like the seat. No, it's not a Surly seat, obviously. I had this rack already. It's just a basic, aluminum rack. It's nothing special. I had the water bottle cages, and I just slowly built this up over time. All in, I've got around, I think, less than $800 in this bike. I think it's maybe around $750 or something, which is still money. It's still money for sure, but it's less money than buying them new. I think new they're around $2,000 or something. So it's definitely worth it, and you can do a lot with it. This lives its life with street tires normally, and fenders, and more racks. Right now I've got it set up with no fenders and larger tires. The largest tire I've had on here is a 45, so 700 by 45. They were a WTB, I don't know, Riddler tire or something, and it fit fine. There's no problem. I couldn't fit fenders, but they still fit fine. So, and the last thing is that if I really wanted to, I could change up these handlebars and put on some straight handlebars, like a hybrid bike, and it would still, be a very functional bike. So it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It's a great fun ride. I think this week I've already ridden this thing around, 85 or 90 kilometers. I don't know how many miles that is, but a fair ways. And it's totally fine. Yeah, it's a great bike to ride. My legs feel great. My body's comfortable. My back doesn't hurt. So if you're thinking about getting one of these, do it. Definitely get it. You'll never regret it. Anyway, hope that's helpful, and happy riding, everybody. Bye now.